Welcome to the absolute Wild West of customer service, where logic goes to die and patience is the only currency that matters. We reveal 55 of the most incredible, funniest, and downright baffling complaints ever logged by a technical support team. From cup holders that are actually disk drives to wireless routers carried in purses, you are about to question how humanity survives the digital age. This is tech support at its absolute worst. 1. A customer calls in, absolutely irate, claiming the retractable cup holder on his new desktop tower snapped off under the weight of his morning coffee. The support agent pauses, checks the specs, and realizes this guy has been using the CD-ROM drive to hold his venti latte for 3 weeks. He actually demanded a refund for a faulty beverage suspension system. Honestly, have you ever misused a piece of tech this badly and blamed the manufacturer? 2. Back in the days of floppy disks, a user complained that he couldn't install his new software because the disk didn't fit. He told the support rep that the square was too big for the slot, so he did the logical thing and took a pair of scissors to it. He physically trimmed the edges of the 3.5-inch disk until it slid into the drive, effectively destroying the magnetic media inside. He was absolutely baffled when the computer wouldn't read his custom-tailored hardware. 3. A support ticket came in marked simply as "Screen broken, cannot delete typos." The tech guy goes to the desk and finds the monitor covered in streaks of dried white correction fluid. The user had been physically painting over his spelling mistakes on the screen instead of using the backspace key. When told that's not how word processors work, he got defensive and asked how else he was supposed to fix the errors once they were already up there. It's a miracle he didn't try to fax the monitor to the recipient. 4. A man used the Find My Device feature to locate his lost phone, which was sitting in a bar 3 miles away. He called support, livid that the feature was useless. He didn't want to know where it was. He expected the Find command to trigger a homing beacon that would cause the phone to sprout legs or fly back to his house. He argued that knowing the location was pointless if the phone wouldn't physically return itself to him like a loyal dog. 5. An angry gentleman called his ISP, screaming that his high-speed internet was down and he was losing money by the minute. The agent runs the standard diagnostics and asks him to check the lights on the modem. The customer creates a legendary moment by replying that he can't check the lights because it is pitch black in the room due to a power outage. He genuinely believed the internet ran on some magical, separate grid from the rest of his electricity. Do you think technology has made us smarter, or just more dependent on magic we don't understand? 6. A writer contacted the support team for her word processing software with a dire emergency. She claimed her keyboard was running out of ink. She had been typing a novel for months and noticed the letters on the screen looked perfectly fine, but she was convinced that eventually the letter E would stop appearing because she used it so much. She wanted to know where to buy a digital ink refill cartridge for her laptop keys before she lost her work. 7. 3D printing is advanced, but not Star Trek advanced. A customer demanded a refund for a printer because it poisoned him. He had downloaded a 3D model of a hamburger, printed it using standard plastic filament, and then actually tried to eat it. He was sick to his stomach, but his complaint was that the machine failed to transmute the plastic into protein. He genuinely thought the device was a food replicator and blamed the company for his indigestion. If you could 3D print one food item that actually tasted real, what would it be? 8. A panicked woman called because her laptop wouldn't turn on after her husband tried to be helpful. He noticed her keyboard was getting a bit dusty and full of crumbs, so he decided to surprise her by cleaning it. A nice gesture, until she revealed that he cleaned it by soaking the entire laptop in hot, soapy water in the kitchen sink and leaving it on the drying rack like a dinner plate. He honestly thought it was waterproof because it had windows on it. 9. You have to admire the optimism of this next user. A man called his internet service provider demanding the address of their bakery fulfillment center. He had spent the last 6 months dutifully clicking "accept cookies" on every single website he visited. He was absolutely furious that after accepting thousands of cookies, not a single chocolate chip shipment had arrived at his doorstep. He accused the internet of running a massive pastry scam and demanded his digital loyalty rewards in the form of actual baked goods. What is the biggest misunderstanding of internet slang you have ever heard? 10. An entire office network crashed, and the IT director rushed to the server room to find a catastrophic meltdown. The new office manager had received complaints about the noisy fans coming from the server closet. Her solution was to wrap the servers in heavy wool blankets to muffle the sound. Naturally, the equipment overheated and fried within the hour. She defended herself by saying she just wanted the computers to be cozy and quiet. 11. A customer called printer support completely furious that his expensive new inkjet was defective. He had tried to print a YouTube video to show during a board meeting, but he was outraged that the paper came out as a still image. He genuinely argued that he paid for high-definition quality and expected the characters on the page to move and talk just like they did on his monitor. He thought we had reached Harry Potter levels of magic and nobody bothered to tell him. 12. Online shopping proves difficult for some people. A support rep for a major credit card company spent 40 minutes helping a woman who couldn't complete an Amazon purchase. The website was fine, but she was physically shoving her plastic Visa card into the floppy disk slot on the side of her laptop. When the rep gently explained that isn't how digital payments work, she snapped back, asking how else the computer was supposed to take her money without stealing the change. 13. As cars get smarter, drivers seem to get lazier. A man contacted his car manufacturer to contest a speeding ticket he got on the freeway. He claimed the cruise control should be smart enough to know the speed limit and physically prevent him from accelerating past 65. He wanted the company to pay the fine because the car was an accomplice to his crime. 14. Remote work has introduced us to virtual backgrounds, but for one woman, the concept was too real. She filed a ticket with Zoom support because her tropical beach background was defective. She was sitting in her freezing cold apartment in December, and she was genuinely angry that changing her background to Hawaii didn't physically warm up the temperature in her room. She claimed the software was false advertising because she could see the sun on the screen but still had to wear a sweater. 15. Robot vacuums are a blessing until biology interferes. A homeowner demanded a full refund after his puppy had an accident on the rug while he was at work. The robot, dutifully following its schedule, ran right over the mess and painted the entire floor in a geometric poop pattern. He blamed the machine for not having a smell sensor rather than blaming himself for leaving an untrained dog alone with a blind robot. 16. Panic levels hit an all-time high when a secretary called the help desk in absolute tears. She had accidentally dragged the Internet Explorer icon into the recycling bin and emptied it. She was hyperventilating, convinced she had deleted the entire internet for everyone on Earth and was waiting for the FBI to kick down her door. It took the tech nearly an hour to convince her that Google was still safe and she hadn't destroyed the World Wide Web. 17. A woman complained that her computer was being incredibly rude to her email recipients. She said every message she sent was in all caps, making it look like she was screaming at her family. The tech saw her caps lock was on, but she refused to turn it off. She insisted she needed to keep it on because she liked the pretty green light on the key, but she still demanded the software stop yelling at people. Logic just left the building on that one. 18. The placebo effect is a powerful force. A technician installed a Wi-Fi router in a woman's hallway, but hadn't even plugged it into the wall yet. He went to his truck for a tool, and when he returned, she was already complaining about a splitting headache from the dangerous radiation. She threatened to sue for health damages caused by a plastic box with zero electricity running through it. Do you know someone who claims to be allergic to Wi-Fi, or do they just need an excuse? 19. Backing up data is a confusing concept for the non-technical. An employee told IT he couldn't back up his workstation anymore because he ran out of room. The tech checked the server space, but the user wasn't talking about files. He was physically pushing his desktop tower backwards against his cubicle wall until it hit the plaster. He wanted to know if he could knock the wall down to back it up a few more inches to make space on his desk. 20. Self-service kiosks are only as smart as the user operating them. A man at a photo printing station got violent because the machine was frozen. He was pinching and zooming on the glass screen, not realizing it wasn't a giant iPad. He pressed so hard he actually cracked the monitor, then demanded the store pay for his injured finger because the machine ignored his gestures. He couldn't grasp that physical buttons below the screen still exist. 21. A furious customer contacted his bank's technical support after a failed transaction on their website. He had clicked the Withdraw Cash button on the online portal and sat waiting for 10 minutes with his hand cupped underneath his laptop's CD-ROM drive. When no bills dispensed, he filed a formal fraud claim. He argued that if the computer could take his money for online shopping, it was holding his cash hostage by refusing to spit it back out. 22. A bride-to-be left a scathing 1-star review for a popular weather app because it rained on her wedding day. She had checked the app months in advance, saw a sun icon, and booked an outdoor venue. Her complaint wasn't that the forecast changed, it was that the app failed to honor the reservation. She believed that by checking the date, she had booked the sunshine and accused the developers of a breach of contract for allowing clouds to appear. 23. The shuffle button on music apps is a source of constant rage. One user submitted a bug report claiming his playlist was broken because it played 2 songs by the same artist in a row. The support rep explained that random means random, and coincidences happen. The user refused to accept this, shouting that true randomness should know better than to repeat an artist. He demanded a smarter random that followed his specific, non-random rules. 24. Robot vacuums are a blessing until biology interferes. A homeowner demanded a full refund after his puppy had an accident on the rug while he was at work. The robot, dutifully following its schedule, ran right over the mess and painted the entire floor in a geometric poop pattern. He blamed the machine for not having a smell sensor, rather than blaming himself for leaving an untrained dog alone with a blind robot. 25. Scammers are bad, but customers who want to be scammed are worse. A man called an antivirus support line, angry that the software was doing its job too well. It had blocked a suspicious website that promised him a free yacht if he entered his social security number. He wasn't grateful, he was furious. He argued that the antivirus company owed him a boat because their software prevented him from claiming his rightful prize. He truly believed a stranger on the internet wanted to ship him a sea vessel for free. 26. A technician arrived at a home to fix a broken wireless printer. He found the device sitting on a desk with its power cord severed by a pair of wire cutters. The homeowner stood there with her hands on her hips, angry that the machine wouldn't turn on. She defended her actions by pointing to the box that said, "Wireless." She claimed the power cable was false advertising and that she had simply finished the setup by removing the unnecessary wire herself. 27. Google Street View caused a domestic dispute and a subsequent tech support call. A man called Google complaining that their service was broken and lagging. He had pulled up the view of his own house and saw his wife's car in the driveway on the screen. He called her, but she said she was at work. He accused Google of showing a fake live feed because he was waving at the computer screen and the car in the picture wasn't honking back. He thought he was looking at a real-time surveillance camera. 28. A panicked mother called tech support, claiming her son's computer had a virus that was physically leaking out of the screen. She described a horrifying green goo dripping from the monitor. The tech was baffled until he asked for a picture. It turned out the son had sneezed violently while drinking a kale smoothie, spraying the screen with green sludge. She was relieved it wasn't a digital virus, but still blamed the computer for not having a sneeze guard included in the box. 29. Smartwatches track sleep, but one user blamed hers for ruining it. She filed a complaint stating the watch was giving her insomnia. Her logic? Every morning, the watch reported she only got 5 hours of sleep. She argued that if she didn't wear the watch, she wouldn't know she slept poorly and therefore would feel rested. She demanded the company alter the algorithm to lie to her and say she slept 8 hours so she could wake up feeling energized. 30. A Netflix user called customer service in a rage because he missed the ending of a movie. He hadn't lost internet connection, he had fallen asleep on his couch. His complaint was that the smart TV was negligent for not monitoring his brainwaves. He insisted that a modern television should be able to tell when a viewer loses consciousness and automatically pause the film. He accused the streaming service of taking advantage of his nap to finish the movie without him. 31. You would think gravity doesn't apply to software, but one user disagreed. She called support complaining that her email fell to the bottom of the screen and she couldn't pick it back up. She had just scrolled down the page. She was physically lifting her monitor and shaking it upside down, trying to get the email to slide back to the top of the glass. Imagine walking into an office and seeing your coworker shaking a monitor like an Etch-A sketch. What is the most ridiculous tech misconception you have ever witnessed in person? 32. Wireless charging pads often look like sleek glass discs, which apparently confused one homeowner to a dangerous degree. He called support claiming his new smartphone exploded while charging. It turns out he didn't buy a charger. He placed his phone directly onto the glass burner of his electric induction stove and turned the dial to high. He argued that since the stove uses induction, just like the phone manual said, it should have supercharged the battery instead of melting it into a toxic puddle of plastic and lithium. 33. Remember that dangerous prank saying iOS updates made iPhones waterproof? One guy took it a step further. He called his carrier screaming for a replacement because his phone melted after he tried to supercharge it in the microwave. He argued that even if it was a rumor, the phone should be intelligent enough to emit a force field or shut down the microwave to save itself. He refused to admit that he cooked his own device like a frozen burrito. 34. A frantic online shopper called her bank to report a massive unauthorized charge. She was screaming that a website tried to bill her $404 for a pair of socks. The support agent checked the logs and realized the user had clicked a broken link and landed on a standard error 404 page not found screen. She honestly thought 404 was the price tag for the error message and refused to pay a cent for a page that didn't even have any content on it. 35. A man lodged a privacy complaint against his smart speaker, but not for the reason you think. He wasn't worried about the government listening. He was mad that the AI was a snitch. He asked the device, "Where was I last night?" in front of his wife, and the device correctly identified that he was at a local sports bar. He was furious that the machine didn't have a bro mode to lie and say he was at the office. He demanded a refund for the disloyal hardware. Would you buy a smart speaker that was programmed to lie for you? 36. Email etiquette is tricky, but this is ridiculous. A woman sent over 50 angry emails to a single address and finally called customer service to complain that the recipient was ghosting her. The address she was emailing? noreplycompany.com. She was convinced that Mr. Noreply was a real, incredibly rude employee who refused to acknowledge her messages. She demanded he be fired for his lack of customer service skills, completely missing the irony of the email address. 37. Optical mice have been around for decades, yet they still baffle some users. A graphic designer called IT saying his mouse stopped working after he performed some safety maintenance. The tech arrived to find the bottom of the mouse completely covered in duct tape. The user explained that he taped over the red laser light because he was worried it was hurting the mouse's eyes. He treated the peripheral like a living rodent and blinded it in an attempt to be humane. 38. A newly hired accountant called the help desk saying her computer was making a terrible grinding noise and smoking. The IT guy rushed over and found the problem immediately. The user had been trying to save her physical paper receipts by jamming them into the ventilation slots of the computer tower. She thought the hard drive was a literal storage bin inside the machine where you kept hard copies of your documents. She had effectively turned her workstation into a very expensive, very flammable trash can. 39. We all love high-definition screens, but one customer returned a new 4K curved television claiming it arrived damaged. The box was in perfect condition, but the TV was bent. The customer didn't know what a curved TV was. He had actually taken the brand new screen, laid it face down on the floor, and piled heavy encyclopedias on the corners in an attempt to flatten it out before turning it on. He cracked the panel instantly and blamed the manufacturer for shipping warped merchandise. 40. A confused homeowner called his internet provider to shout about the guest Wi-Fi setting on his new router. He was hosting a dinner party and was outraged that the router wasn't doing its job. He genuinely thought that enabling guest services meant the modem would somehow act like a digital butler and help serve appetizers or announce visitors when they arrived. He called the device lazy for just sitting on the shelf while he did all the hosting work himself. 41. One technician spent 20 minutes trying to figure out why a new user couldn't get the cursor to move on her screen. The connection was fine, the mouse was plugged in, and the drivers were updated. Finally, the tech asks her to describe exactly how she is moving the mouse. The silence was deafening before the user replied that she was pressing down on the pedal with her foot, but nothing was happening on the TV. Yes, she had the mouse on the floor and was treating her computer like a Singer sewing machine from the 1950s. 42. The DIY spirit is admirable, but not when it destroys expensive electronics. A man called headphone support screaming that his device was broken. He had purchased a pair of high-end wired studio headphones, brought them home, and immediately used scissors to cut the cord off. He argued that it was 2024 and everything is wireless now, so he assumed the wire was just a starter cable for people who didn't know how to use Bluetooth. He had successfully snipped his way to total silence. What is the most expensive thing you've ruined because you didn't read the manual? 43. A help desk ticket simply read, "Computer overheating. I opened Windows, but it didn't help." The technician assumed the user meant he had closed some software applications to reduce the load. Upon arriving at the desk, however, he found the computer tower sitting on the windowsill with the actual glass window of the office wide open, letting in freezing winter air and snow. The user thought the operating system was named Windows because it required fresh air to breathe. 44. A rental car agency received a furious call from a driver who was stuck at a gas station for 45 minutes. He was driving a Tesla and was enraged that the gas nozzle wouldn't fit into the fuel hole. He had been trying to jam a diesel pump into the electric charging port, scratching the paint in the process. He genuinely thought electric was just a brand name for a fuel-efficient gas car and accused the rental company of hiding the gas tank to trick him. 45. Security questions are hard, but apparently reading instructions is harder. A user was locked out of his account and swore he was typing the password exactly as written. The IT guy resets it to a temporary password, which was the word Apple, and tells the user that when he types it in, it will show up as 5 stars to protect his privacy. The user calls back 5 minutes later, still locked out. Why? Because he was literally typing the asterisk symbol 5 times instead of the word Apple. Logic has left the building. 46. Biometric security is only as hygienic as the user. A corporate IT department received a ticket about a fingerprint scanner not working. The tech arrived to find the user sitting with his bare foot on the desk, trying to mash his big toe against the laptop's sensor. The user explained that his hands were greasy from eating chips, so he thought he could use his footprint as a backup. He was offended when the tech suggested he just wash his hands instead of putting his feet on company property. 47. E-readers are designed to be durable, but they aren't indestructible. A customer returned a Kindle in 2 separate pieces. He hadn't dropped it, he had snapped it in half on purpose. He explained that he finished the page he was reading and tried to turn the page physically, like a paperback book, but with extreme force. He complained that the device had stiff hinges and demanded a refund for a book that couldn't handle a vigorous page turn. Do you prefer the feel of real paper, or are you fully digital? 48. Then we have the lady who took the term wireless router a little too literally. She called in a rage because her internet stopped working the moment she left her house. Turns out she had unplugged the router, put it in her purse, and expected it to beam Wi-Fi to her iPad while she was grocery shopping. She genuinely argued that wireless means wireless and accused the company of false advertising because the device required a power cord to function. Apparently, physics is just a suggestion to some people. 49. Smart fridges can order groceries, but they can't cook them. A customer left a 1-star review for a high-tech refrigerator because his dinner was cold. He had placed a frozen lasagna inside the fridge on a shelf, expecting the smart appliance to know it was dinner time and heat it up. He argued that if a phone can be a flashlight, a fridge should be an oven. He accused the manufacturer of selling half-finished kitchen technology. 50. A user contacted a software company to complain about the undo button. He had printed 100 copies of a document with a typo in the headline. He went back to his computer, clicked undo in the word processor, and was absolutely livid that the ink didn't vanish from the physical papers sitting on his desk. He genuinely believed the undo command sent a signal to the printer to reverse the printing process and suck the ink back into the cartridge. 51. A user called the help desk to report that the screenshot function on his laptop was broken. He had dropped his laptop, cracking the screen, and he needed IT to assess the damage remotely. He took a screenshot of the desktop and emailed it to the technician, furiously asking, "Can't you see the giant crack in the middle?" He genuinely believed that a software screenshot would capture the physical damage of the broken glass. It took a solid 10 minutes to explain that the computer captures the image data, not a photo of its own shattered face. 52. The influence of crime TV shows has ruined expectations for security cameras. A store owner called support to complain about his new 1080p security system. He had footage of a shoplifter from a camera 50 feet away, and the face was just a blur of pixels. He was screaming that the enhance button was missing. He seriously expected to be able to zoom in infinitely on a reflection in a puddle to see the suspect's DNA, just like on CSI. He demanded a refund because the camera couldn't defy the laws of optical resolution. 53. A remote worker filed a ticket claiming his home printer was possessed. He was logged into his office computer via a remote desktop connection. He hit print on a document, expecting it to come out of the printer sitting next to him in his kitchen. Instead, it printed out 20 miles away at the empty office. He accused the software of stealing his paper and routing it to a secret location. He couldn't grasp that if you tell the office computer to print, it uses the office printer, not the one in your house. 54. In a display of what internet trolls call troll physics, a man returned a surge protector claiming it was defective. He wasn't trying to plug appliances into it. He was trying to generate free electricity. He had plugged the power strip into itself, creating a loop, and was furious that it didn't generate infinite power. He argued that the electricity should just cycle around and multiply. He genuinely thought he had discovered a loophole in the energy crisis and accused the manufacturer of capping the power to protect the electric companies. 55. Finally, we have the classic case of the missing computer. An employee asked if he could work from home. The boss said yes, just take the computer with you. The next day, the employee called saying he couldn't find his files or turn the thing on. He had only taken the monitor, the keyboard, and the mouse, leaving the actual PC tower under his desk at work. He thought the heavy box on the floor was just a footrest or a kickstand. He stared at the black screen for hours, waiting for his work to appear out of thin air. We have just scraped the bottom of the barrel of human intelligence. From people who try to print videos to those who think clouds hold their data, it is a miracle the internet still functions at all. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the absolute single dumbest thing you have ever seen someone do with a piece of technology in real life? Drop a story in the comments that will make us all lose hope for the future. If you survive this list, hit that like button and subscribe for more madness.